On a Tuesday morning last September, a brand new truck rolled into my bay on a flatbed. Not a worn-out beater with 200,000 miles and a neglected maintenance history. A 2023 Toyota Tundra Crewmax TRD Pro. The kind of truck people save years to buy. It had 34,000 miles on the odometer. The engine was seized solid. The owner stood in my parking lot with his hands in his pockets, not saying much. He did not need to. He had already heard the words from the dealership: main bearing failure. Total engine replacement. The part that still bothers me is this: he had done everything right. Oil changes on schedule. No towing beyond the rated capacity. No abuse, no track days, no neglect. He just drove the truck. Today, I am going to tell you exactly what is happening inside a growing number of brand new Toyota engines, why they are catastrophically failing before 50,000 miles, why this is not a fluke, and what you absolutely must know if you currently own or plan to buy one of these vehicles. Because what Toyota quietly admitted in their own recall documents should have made national headlines, and most owners still have no idea it applies to their truck. Let me be very clear before we go any further. Toyota built one of the greatest reliability reputations in automotive history. I have seen their older engines run 300,000 miles without an internal repair. The 1GR-FE V6 in early Tacomas, the 2GR-FE in Camrys and Siennas, the legendary 2JZ from the Supra era. These were engines that mechanics trusted completely and owners forgot about entirely. That reputation took decades to build, which is exactly why what happened next is so stunning. In 2022, Toyota launched the third-generation Tundra with a brand new engine, the V35A FTS. It is a 3.4-liter twin turbocharged V6, replacing the old 5.7-liter V8 that had served Toyota faithfully for years. The new engine made 389 horsepower in standard form, offered better fuel economy, and was technologically sophisticated in ways the old iron V8 never had to be. It powered not just the Tundra, but also the Lexus LX 600 and later the Lexus GX 550. This was Toyota's new flagship power plant, the crown jewel of their truck lineup. Within 2 years, over 100,000 of those engines would be recalled for catastrophic failure. The cause is something that should never happen from a manufacturer with Toyota's standards. During the machining process at the factory, metal debris, what engineers call swarf, was not fully cleaned out of the engine block before assembly. These are microscopic fragments of metal left over from the precision machining of bearing journals and oil passages. In a properly manufactured engine, those passages are flushed clean before the bearings are installed. In these engines, they were not. Here is why that matters so much. Main bearings are the thin precision components that allow the crankshaft to spin inside the engine block. They are separated from the metal surfaces they ride against by nothing more than a film of pressurized oil, a film sometimes thinner than a human hair. The tolerances are that tight. That oil film is what prevents metal-on-metal contact at thousands of RPM. The moment that film is compromised, even briefly, the bearing begins to wear. Microscopic metal debris in the oil passages does exactly that. It gets carried by the oil pump directly into the most critical lubrication points in the engine. It embeds into bearing surfaces. It scores journals. It disrupts the film that is supposed to protect everything. And then, sometimes without any warning at all, the bearing fails. Drivers reported their engines knocking suddenly on the highway. Some heard nothing at all before the power cut, and the warning lights flooded the dashboard. Some had their trucks towed and running fine. only for the technician to find bearing material contaminating the entire oil system. In one of the more alarming documented cases, an owner's Tundra seized at 34,000 miles with no warning. The engine had simply been running on borrowed time from the day it was built. The debris was already there. Every mile was just wearing the bearing a little further down, until there was nothing left to wear. Toyota's initial recall in 2024 covered approximately 102,000 Tundra and Lexus LX vehicles from the 2022 and 2023 model years. The fix was not a patch. It was not a software update or a flush. Toyota confirmed there was no alternative. Every single affected engine had to be completely replaced. Here is the detail that tells you everything about how serious this problem was. Toyota, one of the most process-obsessed manufacturers on Earth, could not even determine which specific engines contained the debris and which ones did not. They did not have a test to identify affected units. The only answer was to replace them all. Then, in late 2025, Toyota expanded the recall again. This time, the net grew to cover more than 127,000 vehicles, adding Tundras produced through February 2024 and extending into the 2024 Lexus GX550 for the first time. The reason for the expansion was damning. The improved machining processes Toyota had implemented after the first recall had not been introduced early enough in production. Trucks were being assembled and delivered during a window where the old contaminated process was still in effect. Toyota was notifying customers they needed new engines while simultaneously building more trucks that would eventually need the same thing. More than 800 warranty claims tied to bearing failure had been officially logged before the second recall even launched. At this point, some owners who had already been through the first recall found themselves back at the dealership. In one case that was documented publicly, an owner's replacement engine failed after a single startup. The oil pump on the new engine was defective. The main bearing in the replacement failed before the truck ever left the service bay. The owner had been without his truck for months and walked out still without it. The frustration is not difficult to imagine. But the Tundra is not the only Toyota story worth telling here. The GR86 is a completely different vehicle, a lightweight rear-wheel drive sports coupe that Toyota markets directly to driving enthusiasts. The engine it uses, the Subaru-built FA24D 2.4-liter Boxer 4-cylinder, has its own manufacturing contamination problem, and it is just as troubling. During assembly, RTV sealant, which is applied at the oil pan mating surface to prevent leaks, was being applied too liberally at the factory. Once the engine runs and heats up, excess sealant begins to break free from the mating surface. Those pieces fall into the oil pan. The oil pump, doing its job perfectly, then sucks that debris directly into the oil pickup strainer. Once the strainer clogs even partially, oil pressure drops. In a high-revving sports car engine operating under the kind of lateral load a spirited driver puts it through, a drop in oil pressure does not give you a warning. It gives you a spun bearing. What made this situation particularly infuriating for owners was how Toyota initially responded. When one of the early documented failures occurred, a driver named Blake Alvarado found RTV sealant blocking his oil pickup after his engine failed. The photos were clear. The cause was identifiable. Toyota's dealer, on instruction from its regional distributor, denied his warranty claim. The justification was that his car had been used at an autocross event. This was a car Toyota itself offered free sponsored track days for. An enthusiast car marketed explicitly to the driving community failed because of a manufacturing defect, and the warranty was denied because the driver had used it the way Toyota's own marketing encouraged. Alvarado ended up paying out of pocket to replace the engine in his only vehicle. It cost thousands of dollars for a defect he had nothing to do with. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, Japanese owners were independently discovering the same sealant debris in their GR86 and Subaru BRZ engines. The problem was not regional. It was built into every engine that left the factory with excess RTV on that oil pan surface. The question for any GR86 owner was never whether the debris existed. It was whether enough of it had accumulated in their specific strainer to cause a failure. You could not know without removing the oil pan and looking. And for many owners, doing that proactively meant risking their warranty claim being denied later. Then there is the new 2024 Tacoma, which is the latest generation of one of the best-selling trucks in America. Toyota redesigned it completely, bringing a new 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine and an all-new 8-speed automatic transmission. Reports of transmission failure began appearing in NHTSA complaint databases within weeks of the first deliveries. Some trucks failed before they had even crossed 1,000 miles. The pattern was consistent. The transmission would suddenly lock out lower gears, leaving the driver with only the upper ratios. Sometimes a restart would temporarily restore function. Sometimes it would not. Toyota eventually issued a technical service bulletin, which is not a recall, but an internal directive telling technicians how to handle a specific problem when a vehicle is brought in. The technical service bulletin listed 6 specific fault codes related to stuck solenoid actuators and torque converter clutch failures, and it specified that both the transmission assembly and the torque converter would need to be replaced when those codes appeared. The problem was that Toyota did not have enough replacement transmissions in the country to fix all the affected trucks. Some owners waited 2 to 4 months for parts. That meant 2 to 4 months without a truck they had just purchased, often still making loan payments. What ties all of these failures together is not bad luck or isolated incidents. It is a pattern rooted in something very specific, and I think it is important to say it plainly. Toyota dramatically accelerated its product development cycle in the early 2020s. New platforms, new engines, new transmissions, all arriving at the same time. The third-generation Tundra represented the biggest redesign the truck had seen in over a decade. The fourth-generation Tacoma was entirely rebuilt from the ground up. The GR86 received its first significant engine change in a decade. All of these launched within a narrow window, and all of them are now showing us what happens when manufacturing processes and quality controls do not fully keep pace with the speed of development. The machining debris issue in the V35A engine is, at its core, a manufacturing process failure. Someone in that factory line was not catching what should have been caught. The RTV problem in the GR86 is a quality control failure. Someone applied too much sealant and no one was checking the quantity consistently. The transmission failures in the Tacoma are an early production durability failure. The design was not fully tested at scale before it reached customers. None of these are software glitches or flukes of bad luck. They are physical, real, and preventable failures that reached paying customers because the processes that should have stopped them did not. Now here is what this actually means for you, whether you own one of these vehicles or are thinking about buying one. If you own a 2022, 2023, or 2024 Toyota Tundra or Lexus LX with the V35A engine, the absolute first thing you need to do is go to Toyota's recall website or call your dealer and verify whether your VIN is included in either of the 2 recalls. If it is, you are entitled to a complete free engine replacement. Do not wait for symptoms. The nature of this failure is that it can happen without any warning whatsoever. A knock that has already gone on too long before you hear it. A stall on the highway at speed. You want that engine replaced before it reaches that point, not after. If you own a 2022, 2023, or 2024 Lexus GX 550, the second recall expansion includes your vehicle as well. Check your VIN and get it into the dealer. If you own a 2022 GRA6 or Subaru BRZ with the FA24 engine, have an oil pan inspection performed, ideally by a shop that is familiar with this specific issue. A borescope inspection through the drain plug hole can reveal whether RTV debris is accumulating in the oil pan. If debris is found in the oil filter at your next change, treat that as an urgent signal. The strainer may already be partially blocked. Do not wait until the engine tells you through the sound of metal grinding on metal. If you own a 2024 Tacoma with the 8-speed automatic, monitor your truck closely for any hesitation, jerking, or unusual behavior during gear changes, especially in lower gears. If you notice anything abnormal, document it and get it into the dealer immediately while it falls under warranty. Do not wait until the transmission locks up on the way to work. And if you are considering buying any of these vehicles right now, this is not a reason to rule them out entirely. It is a reason to verify recall status before you buy, to know exactly what you are getting into, and to understand that the early production windows of all these platforms carry more risk than later built units. Toyota has been addressing these failures. They have replaced over 100,000 engines at their own expense. They are honoring warranties. The company's response in most cases has been appropriate even when it has been slow. But knowing the history protects you from becoming the next person standing in a parking lot staring at a flatbed. Here is the broader truth that nobody is comfortable saying, but that I think every driver deserves to hear. Toyota still builds excellent engines. Their reliability track record across most of their lineup remains strong. Examples include a Camry with the 2.5-liter engine, a RAV4, and an older Tacoma with the 3.5-liter V6. These vehicles still represent some of the most dependable transportation available. But the last 3 years have exposed something that was always technically possible. Even the best manufacturers can fail under pressure. Rushing new technology to market too quickly costs the people who trusted the brand most. The ones who paid full price for a brand new truck based on a decades-long reputation and ended up on a flatbed at 34,000 miles. The reputation Toyota built was real, and so is the damage when that reputation is put at risk. Before you click away, drop in the comments what you own and whether you have checked your recall status. If this video helped you understand what is actually happening under the hood of these trucks, hit like, because it helps more Toyota owners find this information before they find out the hard way. Subscribe if you want mechanical truth instead of promotional content. If you have been through one of these engine failures yourself, your story matters. Share it below. Because the most expensive repair is the one nobody warned you was coming.